Well, hello everybody. Bob DiGiacomo, Bermuda Bob Leadership and Intentional Growth Coaching, coming to you as always from beautiful and sunny Bermuda. It's not too sunny, but it is beautiful. It is wintertime, so therefore gray skies are going to clear up and put on a happy face. But speaking of which, I wanted to start this off by letting you all know, besides a very wonderful and happy new year to all of you, that shift happens. That's right, shift happens. Now, I probably have piqued your attention a little bit as you were listening to that word that I said, shift, not that other word. Shift happens. I think back to the movie Lincoln, where there's a scene in there where Lincoln is speaking to one of the radical Republican senators as he's seeking to get support for an amendment that he's trying to get passed, which is going to actually free the slaves and eventually give them the right to vote. Shift happens. So the deal is that he said, what good is it knowing where true north is if you don't take into account the chasms, the pitfalls, etc., that you're going to encounter along the way? I mean, it's great to be able to head in that direction of true north, but if you have problems along the way and you eventually just don't get where you're looking to go, what good is it knowing? But shift happens. And I was reading an article just the other day that said that magnetic north, true north, is actually shifting on the planet from where it presently is. Now, that may not seem like a lot to worry about, but you carry one of these thingamabobbies, there's a GPS built into it. It actually lets you know where you are at any given time. In fact, it probably tells you where you are even when you don't want to know where you are, because then all the stores pop up near you, all the restaurants pop up near you. You do have the option, though, shift happens, to push some buttons and to turn those things off. But invariably, they get turned back on when you're not looking. Shift happens. GPSs take their guidance from that polarity of the Earth's poles so that the satellites up in space know exactly where they are in relation to where everything else is, and your GPS is going to work. Now, I don't know about you, but back in the old days, even if shift happens, we had these things in the Boy Scouts and in the military called a compass. A compass didn't worry about the modern technologies of what was going on, because a compass would always, no matter where the pole was, aim in that direction. It's called the magnetic impact of what the Earth has to offer. I mean, there's such a great amount of magnetism as shift happens. But in today's society, we get all panicky if we don't know exactly where we are. You know, you're on that drive and you're using your maps, Google Maps, whatever, and Siri's telling you, or Alexa's telling you where to go, and you don't end up where you want it to be because shift happens. And you might have taken a wrong turn somewhere because shift happens, and recalculating. Very nice of them not to come out and say, you blew it. You didn't make the turn. Be a turkey. Turn around and go back where you came from. I'll get you straight. No, that's not what our intelligent devices tell us. But there was a lot to be said about having that wonderful compass in hand and being able to find where we were going. In the military, they taught us to use a map and compass, and then in the military they taught us to just use the compass and use the ground as our guide to get where we needed to go. I also think back to the old days. I know some of you won't remember this because you're perhaps you haven't lived in 2 centuries like I have, or maybe you have lived in 2 centuries like I have, but not quite as many years. I'm a baby boomer. And back in the days of baby booming, when I was a wee youngster, we had radios that you had to fine tune because shift happens. And you could pick up stations way far on the other side of the world, because we used to use something called AM radio. as opposed to this FM and the Sirius satellite. Oh, shift happens. What would happen if your Sirius satellite radio didn't tune in because it didn't know where you were because of that old GPS thingamaboppy? But anyway, what does that have to do with today's message? Well, in your life, shift happens. And you need to be prepared for the changes that will cause you to get back on course. You know that when you're flying in an airplane, the doggone thing never flies straight. It's a constant series of corrections with the autopilot. You know that on a ship, the doggone thing never steers straight because you have tides, you have waves, and somebody's there piloting the boat, and even that has an autopilot, and it's making constant corrections. So, shift happens. Be ready for it. Take advantage of it. Be prepared. But always remember, as Lincoln said, what good is it knowing true north if you don't take into account all the pitfalls and chasms that lie in your way? Because shift happens. So until next time, Bob DiGiacomo, Bermuda Bob Leadership and Intentional Growth Coaching. And make it a great, significant, and wonderful day. And get out there and mess around with your shift because it happens. All the best. God bless.